This meeting to order since we were kind of running behind. Ways and Means had a long meeting. I was going to ask Representative Noel Williams he would open us in prayer. What's your mic, Noel? What number?
Mic 2, maybe.
All right.
There we go. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all your many blessings of life. We thank you for the great outdoors, and we ask you to be with us and to guide us through this meeting. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks, Noel. All right, we don't have time to kind of chit chat. Our commissioner and staff have been sitting by, and Commissioner, I'm gonna go on and turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Hope everybody can hear me and the committee. And thanks for giving us the opportunity to share with you today. And for those new members, I'm Mark Williams, and I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Natural Resources. And it's an honor to be a resource for you in your role on this committee. And should you ever need anything, please reach out to myself or our Director of Governmental Affairs, Josh Hildebrandt, anytime 24/7. To start, DNR has statewide responsibilities for the management and conservation of Georgia's natural, historic, and cultural resources, including fish and wildlife, land conservation, coastal resources, sustainability initiatives, and outdoor recreation opportunities. Mr. Chairman, you're going to be hearing from my division directors on how we carry all that out, but I thought I'd spend my time talking about one of our flagship programs, which is the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, which provides annual designated funding to state agencies, local governments, recreation authorities, and nonprofits for projects that support conservation, outdoor recreation, and land acquisition. The first grant cycle in 2020 awarded $19.8 million in grant funds to impactful projects all the way from Forsyth County through Meriwether County, all the way down to Camden County. We're now in the second grant cycle that should soon receive final approval. This slate includes $20.6 million in grant funds, which cover 9 significant projects ranging from a new visitor center at Amicalola Falls in North Georgia to an acquisition of 11,600 acres on the Georgia coast. Undoubtedly, Mr. Chairman, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program helps to make Georgia a leading state for conservation and outdoor recreation in the country. Now I'd like to introduce our division directors and hand it over to them to share some more information about their individual divisions in DNR. First, I'd like to introduce Doug Hammonds. He's our Coastal Resources Director, and he's going to be coming to you from the great city of Brunswick. Doug?
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I hope that you're able to see my cover slide, which is Coastal Resources Division. Somebody give me a thumbs up that you can see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, we got you.
We're working fine. So quickly, I have in the room with me this afternoon, CRD's leadership team, Carl Burgess, Assistant Director, Dr. Carolyn Belcher, Chief of Marine Fisheries, and Ms. Jill Andrews, Chief of Coastal Management. I have just 4 slides for you, and really it's a little bit of an update more than anything else, which I hope will be illustrative of what Coastal Resources Division does on a daily basis. But I have to get my slides to advance. There we go. Okay, so Coastal Resources Division is responsible for managing these vast natural resources that I hope you've all had a chance to visit, from 368,000 miles of marshes to 105 miles of beaches. We do a lot with a small staff of about 64 folks. We are responsible for the Coastal Marshlands Protection Act, the Shore Protection Act, the Coastal Management Program through the Coastal Zone Management Act, and Title 27 of the Game and Fish Code as it relates to saltwater fishes. So if you interact on the marshes, the beaches, or in saltwater fisheries, that falls within Coastal Resources Division's purview. I'm going to give you a few updates from the 2020 year, and by that you'll see a little bit of what we do. First of all, the 2021 shrimp season closed on January 31st. Through November, we had 2.3 million pounds, which is about $11.5 million of value. Both of those were increases, about 23% over the 5-year average for landings and about 15% increase in value over the 5-year average. We do expect more reports to come in December, or come in now for December, which will increase both of those. We, in the year 2020, were responsible for implementing the CARES Act commercial fishing aid. $300 million of the first CARES Act was distributed to coastal states, commercial and charter for hire fishermen and processors. The state of Georgia got roughly 1.9 million of that, and eventually we were able to distribute 1.5 million to 59 commercial and charter fishermen. CARES Act 2 is on the horizon, and we look to receive about a $3 million share of that. I will tell you that recreational fishing was not impacted negatively by COVID. Back during March and April, when our boat ramps are open, we saw about a 78% increase in usage when compared to 2019. As well as recreational fishing activity, we do an awful lot here with permitting of both marsh and shore activities. We do things like federal consistency for federal projects, issuing those permits that we talked about earlier, as well as private recreational docks. In 2020, a staff of 6 folks issued 796 actions, which as a whole was up by 13% over the 5-year average. And we issued 368 jurisdictional determinations, which is a 35% increase. What that's saying is there were people at home looking for things that they wanted to do, and they interacted with us to start the permitting process. So our folks were pretty busy in that world. If you haven't already, you should be getting very soon a series of legislative reports coming out of the Coastal Resources Division. We're going to be providing you a triennial report on the Coastal Management Program, a report on our water bottoms lease activity, and then we also report to you annually any activity on saltwater species that's contained within Code Section 27410. So in the year 2020, we added oceanic white-tipped sharks to the prohibited list. We increased the minimum size for short-fin mako sharks to 83 inches, and we added the addition for requiring circle hooks when fishing recreationally for sharks. We also closed blue fishing for recreational purposes the months of March and April. All of those actions were taken in regard to a fishery management plan through the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission. And the final update there on the marine license habitat plate, which we again are so thankful that you guys helped us get. In the first 3.5 years, we've raised just over $500,000, and we're putting it to good use on offshore habitat and moving inshore. I heard that you wanted to hear a brief update on shellfish. I will say that we are roughly a year behind in our shellfish timeline. We will blame it on COVID and our inability to interact with the Corps of Engineers on a lot of issues, but it did give us time to get an awful lot of other things lined up. We have all of our intertidal leaseholders as they exist today have all gotten packages or applications submitted to the Corps, something that's never been done before. We were able to bring on board 2 new biologists, which we're again thankful to the legislature for providing for us. We did issue 5 new intertidal leases, which is a great milestone for us. And we hope that by June of 2021, we will have at least 3 subtidal leases, which your body was able to authorize for us 2 years ago. We hope to have those out and to the leaseholders by June of 21. And finally, a quick update on the Golden Ray. I know a lot of you have been down here and have seen it. They are still in the middle of the 3rd cut of the Golden Ray. That cut started on January 27th. They've ran into several issues with equipment failures, but they are back up and cutting today with no anticipated date of finishing that cut, but hopefully soon. They're more than halfway through with that cut. So with that, that is a very quick snapshot of Coastal Resources and what we did in 2021. And if there's time for questions at the end, we're standing by. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Got my mic back on, Mr. Chairman, sorry. Next, I'll introduce Colonel Bernard from our Law Enforcement Division. Commonly, y'all refer to him as game wardens, we refer to him as game wardens.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. You see my slide now as we're moving forward. 2020 has been a challenging year for us. Yet, even though with COVID, there are some positives out of it. Our waterways and woods and our parks and just basically outdoors saw a increase in new people taking on these adventures just to deal with the COVID stress. But even though with that, our actual hunting incidents were down 7%, as well as our boating incidents were down by 8%. Our branding logo is law enforcement off the pavement. As you can see, we are the only standalone agency that enforces our hunting, fishing, and boating, as well as our DNR controlled properties. This past year, we conducted 327 search and rescue missions across the state. And even with COVID, we conducted over 1,000 educational programs with that as well. Additionally, we worked there in the city of Atlanta, plus other places across the state. During the protest response, our duties were preserving life and property, as well as protecting the rights of citizens for peaceful assembly. And most of those venues were at the state capitol grounds, governor's mansion, and World Congress Center. Those are a few photos there of the George Floyd protest. We had 309 deployments from May 29th through June 7th, and almost 4,000 man hours at those locations. Our primary response was with our ATVs, QRF teams, assisting other agencies with those. Rayshard Brooks, we had 50 deployments there in the city of Atlanta from June 13th through the 15th. We've been very busy with the COVID-19 response here in 2020. Most of that was is enforcing the Governor Kemp's executive orders on our state waterways and our parks. As those numbers grew exponentially with visitors, we were able to assist with that. And most everyone that we encountered were respectful of the order and complied, and we didn't have any issues there. And last but not least, we continue to assist DPH with transportation of not only medical supplies, but also now we're transporting a lot of the vaccines around the state and provide security at some of the vaccination sites as well. That was just a brief overview, and I'll be standing by in case we have any questions for later on.
Thank you, Colonel.
Jeff Cowan, who's the director of our state parks. Jeff.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate this opportunity to update you on the happenings at our wonderful state parks and historic sites. In our system, we have 49 state parks, 16 historic sites, 5 lodges, 8 golf courses that encompass almost 85,000 acres. We have over 400 cottages, 45 campgrounds with over 2,400 campsites, 39 yurts, over 900 miles of hiking, biking, and equestrian trails. We have around 810 employees that welcome over 11.4 million visitors each year, with a $1.2 billion economic impact to the state of Georgia. Also, committee, we stayed open during the pandemic. We did have to limit access at many of our facilities to not allow overcrowding and allow for social distancing. And we have had holiday level visitations during the spring, summer, and fall. We continue to have limited access to some of our more popular parks, such as Cloudland Canyon, Fort Mountain, and Providence Canyon on good weather weekends, even in the winter. Our visitation for the first half of fiscal year 21 was a 27% increase over fiscal year 20, which is over 1.3 million more visitors than last year. Our nights occupied has increased as well, with 23% more folks spending night in cottages, 28% in camping, 39% in our yurts. Over 12,000 more golf rounds have been played for a 37% increase the first half of the year. The things that have been down are our historic site admissions, but we are limiting the folks going through our museums and historic sites, but we're down 4%. And our group shelter business is down 39% because of, limits on gathering. I cannot thank the parks team enough for the job they've done during the pandemic. They've been there every day, welcoming our guests, providing them with a great recreational opportunity, and serving Georgia in a very proud way. And currently today, we are providing some locations for vaccines at a few of our parks, and we're willing to do that as others. We're currently have had vaccine days at Magnolia Springs State Park in Jenkins County and vaccine days at Jack Hill State Park in Tattnall County. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at the end if you'd like.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, with the retirement of Rusty Garrison since last year, I'm very pleased to introduce to you Ted Will, who's our new director of WRD and doing a fine job for us. Ted?
Thank you, Commissioner and Mr. Chairman and other members of the committee. Give me a second to go from the Colonel's presentation to mine. Well, be just 1 second here. Hopefully I can get this up. If not, we'll give a verbal. Guess it's not up yet, is it?
Yes, just.
Let me try this one more time. All right, can everybody see that now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. As with all the divisions in DNR, we are focused on customer service. And we have a passionate group of customers out there participating in a wide variety of outdoor recreational opportunities each year. It's also important that this passionate group of customers contribute significantly to economics in the state. Hunters and fishermen spend generally around $2.5 billion in retail sales each year in our state. It's also kind of hard to capture in a brief presentation, but every day our staff are serving these customers in a wide variety of land, water, and facilities across this state, from wildlife management areas, public fishing areas, shooting ranges, archery ranges, fish hatcheries where we're producing and stocking fish around the state. So we got the boating access team putting in boat ramps, renovating facilities, and a team of and people teaching the next generation of outdoor Georgians at education centers across the state. So we're simply blessed with a lot of opportunity and responsibility. It's also important to recognize that Georgia, we're real fortunate. We likely have the one, probably number one, most biologically diverse states around in the nation. From the mountains to North Georgia to the coast, we have a lot of different habitats and a lot of different species that live within those habitats. As far as last year, how things are going, just like you've already heard here today, a lot of good news. License revenue is up around 14%. Boat registration was up around 8%. The number of people holding a fishing or a hunting license is also up somewhere just right over 7%. So that's all good. And if we actually look at on some of the properties we manage, for example, public fishing areas, we're seeing use on average somewhere around 50% or more, generally across the board. And also where we have hunters signing in on our wildlife management areas, we're seeing an increase in use there as well, specifically in those areas in and around Metro Atlanta. So we know we've got a lot of customers out there hunting. So how are things going? How's their experience? Overall, good. It's been a great year. Deer hunting harvest is up. It was up over 8% or so. We've had a record year for alligator harvest. And thanks to the hard work of our WMA folks working on WMAs, we have one of the best early season dove hunts we've seen in a while on our management areas. Great great dove fields, and Mother Nature certainly helped us there as well. So all this is great, but we're also excited about some new programs we got moving forward. Community fishing program where we're stocking thousands of fish into city, county, and state park lakes in and around the metro Atlanta area. The deer management assistance program is in full swing where we're assisting hunters on their property for property specific deer management objectives and goals. They've enrolled around 109,000 acres in this program so far. And finally, our urban wildlife program is making a strong presence in assisting citizens in the metro Atlanta area. And this includes things from deer getting hung up in a fence to a sighting of a coyote running through a neighborhood. But anyway, we're excited about the work they're doing as well. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to share that your constituents are getting outdoors and having a great experience and also contributing a lot of money while doing so.
Thank you, Ted. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, back in February, we made the decision, well, along with the governor, that we were going to keep DNR open. We thought early on that mental, not only physical well-being during the COVID pandemic, but also mental, that our folks could provide a great service to the citizens of Georgia. Even when our neighbors closed, we stayed open and we kept our properties open safely for our employees and our customers and your constituents. And I just want to publicly thank all my division directors and all their staffs for going the extra mile and providing this service during this difficult time. And with that, I will open it back to give it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Commissioner. And I just want to say, not only are we blessed in the state that we live in and all the diversity and the different things the Lord blessed us with, but we have got great leadership here in this state over there in that department. And I just want to give y'all all a round of applause if I can, and thank y'all for what y'all do, because y'all are great at what you do, and we're blessed to have you. And I just want to say thank you. I would ask, I know one question right here. We may take a couple, and then we're going to get through this legislation. And can y'all hang around in case we have a couple of questions on this legislation that we have? Because
Yes, sir.
Go through this, and then I want y'all to maybe give a brief little 2 to 3 minute explanation on the DMAP program so they can understand that a little more after we go through that. So we've got a question, Chairman Petrie, what's your mic number?
Can you hear me? Commissioner, thank you so much. I want to just echo first, I'm going to be very brief, but I want to echo first the great job y'all have done down on the Georgia coast. Everything you described and was described by your staff is what I've seen. Folks were out fishing more, spending time with their children. They were getting outdoors. They were on the beach. They were doing all of these things that were a real blessing during this pandemic. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate your whole department, and especially to the folks at the Coastal Resources Division, who I have, as you know, tremendous respect for and a great working relationship with them. I did want to ask a couple of things real quick. Number one, can you please send your slides to all of our members of this committee? Number
Absolutely.
two, I want to mention that I understand well the pandemic has slowed our oyster mariculture efforts, and the director spoke to that issue, but I would ask y'all to do me a favor. I believe that it's time to expedite. We need to catch up on our oyster bill efforts. The folks on the coast want to see it moving forward. I think they understand well. We've all been through a pandemic, and we've had your staff used in a myriad of ways in areas even that you're not accustomed to. And so we know that, but now is the time for us to really push and expedite the oyster bill. And of course, we worked hard here in this body to make sure that we have those 2 new biologists that you have on your staff. And then finally, Commissioner, I want to mention just an issue for y'all to think about. Die lane. I have a lot of folks that hunt die lane. I fear we're losing some of our focus on quail management at die lane. I could be wrong. I can't guarantee that to be true, but I would like to just emphasize on a personal level that we do need to have WMAs that are focused on quail management, quail habitat. And when we have good experience in the past, we want to keep it going, keep it moving forward. So those are just a few of those comments, Commissioner. Again, appreciate you so much, your leadership and all of your staff there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Ted may want to jump in on the quail, but on the oyster, one thing to add, and we asked the division directors to keep their presentation short, so Doug had to shorten his considerably, but some of the things that the other states around us went through, they didn't do their siting up front. And so they issued the leases and then sort of notified the public about where they were going to be, which caused a lot of problems on the tail end. We have been working that's with USDA, and COVID has impacted that, but we wanted to do a lot of that siting work on the front end, so we didn't have those big arguments on the tail end. But I'll kick it to Ted for a little quail thing. Ted, on the quail question.
Yes, sir. Representative Petrie, we're kind of right there with you regarding Die Lane, and we're working towards getting Die Lane back to where it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. We had some habitat, some burning that fell behind, and we also had a little bit of issue with some habitat work. But I think we got a strong plan ahead of us to get us back to where we need. As you know, kind of producing those wild quail, which we all love, is an intensive management operation, and you got to be right on top of things. Just like with NASCAR, you might blow an engine when you're running an intensive management kind of operation like that. But we're on top of it. I'm encouraged. I've seen their plan. We've circled the wagons there, and I'm confident our staff will bring that place right back to where it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions real quick? If I tell you, we've got one online, and it's Representative Bruce. And let's see here. He said he went by Sweetwater Creek State Park and there was no water in the lake. What's happening over there? Do y'all know what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think they're doing work on the dam at the lake, so they had to lower it in order to run the spillway at the dam. So that would be why the lake was lowered.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. And I hope Representative Bruce got that. I hope you could hear that, Representative Bruce. All right. At this time.
I heard it. Thank you.
Okay, he did. All right. At this time, Floor Leader LaRicchia is now Chairman LaRicchia, and I'm going to change seats.
Hey, am I on right here? All right, thank you, Chairman Rhodes. And just, we're going to give it to you. We're going to start with House Bill 362. You clarify that LC number for us and just get started. What number are you?
One, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to be on the substitute to House Bill 362 should be LC 441648S. Is that what everybody has in their packets? This is our department bill. It's got a number of sections, but it's all pretty simple. I'm just going to walk through these sections, and then if we have any questions or we need more clarification, we've got all the experts on the line that can help us. Section 1, we're just codifying our board rules. This makes our board rules active so they can be enforceable. Section 2.1, we're changing the definition on the black bass and some trout. We had some hybrids. If we had some really, really smart anglers who actually knew what they were doing, they could catch these fish and catch as many as they wanted. So we want to go back and change our definition on the black bass and the trout so they could be covered on our bag limits and make sure that the same rules apply to them as they do our other fish. Section 2.2 is more of our codification of our board rules. Section 2.3 is a lot of people are going to be happy with this. we're legalizing the lower caliber of a 30 caliber in our muzzle loaders for our primitive weapon season that we have early for deer every year. So now we're going to make it where the 30 caliber and above in the muzzle loader will be legal. And Emory, they're making them, so you can reserve yours. All right, section 2.4. This is our DMAP program. If you choose to join this program, you can get with our department and our biologist and pay them a little fee, and they'll come out and help you. As long as you commit to their itinerary and their rules, they will come out and do a like a financial plan, but it's a hunting plan and a management plan for your property that will be catered to you. And then your bag limits and such might be tweaked if they see fit for your property. And I'm going to let the commissioner expand on that when we get done with this bill a little bit. Section 2.5 and 2.6, this is allowing for and legalizing minnow traps in fresh water. Just like we do in our salt water and our brackish waters down near the coast, this is just going to create uniformity across our waterways throughout our whole state. And then section 2.7 is where we come in and put the bag limits for the fish that we talked about earlier. Part 3.1 is just more promulgation of rules. So, Mr. Chairman, that's pretty much the bill. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And if I can't, I've got backup online.
You do have a question, Mike, number 10. All right, Chairman.
All right.
Dubnik.
Thank you, Chairman LaRicchia. Chairman Rhodes, I'm a little concerned. If you could go back up here to section 2.1. Why don't we just start on line 32? Could you make that statement again as to why this was needed? You said something about a savvy angler or something about fishermen bending the rules. Could you address that, please?
Well, basically what that means is we've got some trout and some black bass that have turned into a hybrid. So we had to change the definition to include the hybrid of that. Basically, if they knew what they were catching and they were catching only them, they could catch as many as they wanted.
I'm just concerned that you go and sit in this seat to present and the fine chairman from South Georgia and his cohort, Chairman Corbett, are known to be fine fishermen.
Well, all they know how to do is catch crappie, and when they come up to my place, they couldn't. So
I just wanted to go on record to ask if you're aware of them bending the rules and if that's why this legislation was needed.
It does have some initials up by it, doesn't it?
Well, I'm just saying. I just wanted the record to show. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm the chairman at this time, and you're out of order just a little bit. And so, but no. I don't see any other questions on this bill.
Could we let the commissioner cover DMAP real quick?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody just lit up. Mike, number 1.
Mr. Chairman, quick question. Section 2 through 6, does that pretty much remind you of when we did the raccoon bill a few years ago?
Very similar.
Very good. And is the commissioner's hair becoming more gray?
I think it's the light. I think it's just the
That's
light.
a good answer.
So did Chairman Petrie need?
My question was the one that the chairman just asked. I wanted a better explanation of
On DMAP. Okay, Commissioner, we're going to turn it over to you and to clarify on this DMAP section.
All right, DMAP authorizes the department to provide property-specific flexibility on deer bag limits for properties enrolled in the DMAP program. It's fairly new. We passed some of it a few years ago, and we've had a great deal of interest and success so far. We've got 166 properties enrolled and nearly 110,000 acres already enrolled. And I'd note that 23% of those are leased properties. So it's the lessees that are enrolling their hunting club in it too. So it's not just landowners. But we believe that the total deer population will benefit from increased flexibility to carry out custom property-specific deer harvest bag limits, which would work hand in hand with the current property-specific customized doe and buck harvest limits. So There are different levels of this technical assistance. The landowner or lessee can choose how far they want to go with it. It's pretty labor intensive on the landowner and lessee's part. And they would get with our dear folks and they will make biologically scientific based sound decisions for that landowner and give them some flexibility on the bag limit. All the rest of DMAP is already law, but this part does give flexibility to the bag limit under sound biological conditions issued by the department.
Any other questions for the commissioner on that? I do want to say that Commissioner and Chairman Rhodes, I know that y'all have worked for, gosh, what, a couple of years or more to try to strike that balance on this DMAP and all of the rules that go along with that, because you might have a large landowner that borders up to a smaller landowner. And I know y'all really worked hard to strike that balance. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in.
We
there.
have, and Commissioner, would you touch on one thing you and I were talking about the other day? When you do this, you do it for an area. So say if me and Chairman Petrie own property side by side and I signed up and say it was just, for easy math, $1,000. Well, he wanted to sign up too. He could get in and could basically, he doesn't have to pay me 500 and we'll basically be in together. Isn't that correct?
That's right. Properties in the same area can work under the same permit, if you will.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank
that.
Good point, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. And y'all know that we have some of the members of the committee that are online. And so, but no further questions on this bill, I would entertain a motion. Well, somebody's got to make it.
Move to pass.
I'm sorry. Okay. We got a move due pass, got a second. And so all in favor, say aye. Aye. I'm going to give them just a second to give me their ayes right here. And all opposed? And if you're on the Zoom call, you do the oppose verbally. If I don't hear any no's here, we'll pass and move on. All right, bill passes. Now we're gonna move on to, did you hear something? Okay. Move on to House Bill 343. Give us that LC number.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a substitute to House Bill 343. It is a LC 441667S. This is a pretty simple bill, and the Georgia Forestry Association has been working with Commissioner and the Colonel and the department for many, many months now, trying to get this where everybody was okay with it. Haven't been having trouble, especially a lot in South Georgia. It happens everywhere, but of poaching. And basically all this bill does is it goes and it gives the game warden the authority to use their discretion. If they really think the person is poaching, it gives them a little more ability to possibly write them a ticket or press charges if they see fit. It just gives them a little bit more, a few more tools in their chest if they need to, prosecute. For instance, if Dominic catches me on his place and he knows I'm out there hunting, but I've kind of hidden my gun and I tell them I'm arrowhead hunting and they really can't prove I'm hunting, it may not be anything they can do. But if the game warden absolutely knows without a shadow of a doubt that I'm hunting on Dominic's place, then he can press the issue more through this legislation. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions? All right. Can you hand him the microphone so everybody can hear his question?
Yeah, very supportive of this legislation, Chairman, and obviously, but I just want to also point out, we're also increasing the fines, which I like. And generally,
Second and third offense.
for the second, third offense, I'm sorry, that's correct. I wanted to just, while the department is still on, just ask this: are we seeing an uptick in poaching generally by the department? I wonder.
Thomas, you want to, Colonel Bernard, do you want to field that question?
Sure, yes. Depends on where you're at in the state, it's a very diverse state, but when it comes to actual trespassing, we are seeing an uptick on that, especially as we get, our actual hunting numbers have increased, and so has our trespassing calls that we receive from landowners.
Thank you, Colonel.
All right, any other questions? The chairman does have one question. On line 42, without looking at it, can you spell paraphernalia?
I no.
That's the first time I've ever seen it written, and that would be impressive. But with no other questions.
I will be
I'll-
honest and say no.
This time we'll entertain a motion to do pass. Anybody? All right, Noel's made a motion do pass. A second? All right, we got a motion and a do pass and a second. All in favor, say aye. All right, all opposed? All right, Mr. Chairman, good job. And I think we're going to adjourn.
Thank you,
We're
Mr.
done.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one.